Coalition's gearing up for a major political fight with the government over superannuation. In a speech to the super industry today, Opposition Treasurer Angus Taylor will argue Labor's got no mandate to tax and spend the retirement savings of Australians. Joining us live now, the Liberal Senator Hollie Hughes and Labor MP Matt Thistlethwaite. Good morning to you. Hollie and Matt. Matt, we'll start with you. So do you support reining in tax breaks for super balances above $3 million?
Pete, before the last election, Labor promised to review the purpose of superannuation in terms of the legislation. We're delivering on that commitment. This week we published a discussion paper which asks the views of the Australian people about what the definition of superannuation in the legislation should be. And that brings in issues of sustainability. There have been calls from the superannuation industry to cap contributions within superannuation. That's something that will no doubt be discussed in the context of this discussion paper, and in due course the government will make a decision on issues such as that. But we're very much delivering on an election commitment to review the purpose of superannuation. OK, but
it seems like Jim Chalmers, though, is zeroing in on tax breaks for super balances above $3 million. Do you support that?
Well, yeah, I certainly do support what the Treasurer has said, and that's because we're delivering on an election commitment. We promised that we look at the purpose of superannuation. There have been 2 reviews in the past of superannuation that have recommended that the purpose be legislated, and that's what we're doing. And that will no doubt raise issues of sustainability, because we saw under the previous government that they had policies that allowed people to raid their superannuation savings during COVID, and we appreciate that many people were in emergency circumstances, but many weren't. And there were no safeguards put in place to ensure that there had been a person lose their job or there had been a loss of income before people were able to withdraw from their superannuation. Now, that now means that a lot of those people have very small balances and are going to struggle for the rest of their working careers to generate a sustainable retirement income. So we want to look at all of those issues in the context of whether or not it's sustainable into the future.
OK, let's send it over to Hollie now. Hollie, what do you make of that?
There is just so much to unpick there, but the first thing is this is a breach of trust by the Labor Party, who Jim Chalmers said before the election, as did Anthony Albanese, that there would be no major changes to superannuation. This is an absolute backflip by them.
Is it a major change, though?
Proves that. Yes, it is. They are proposing major changes, and you cannot propose changes to superannuation, which is compulsorily paid into. Every Australian pays into this superannuation fund for their retirement. It is their money. The money that Mr. Matt just referred to as being raided was supported by the Labor government for people who lost their job during COVID. Now, by withdrawing from their super funds, many of those people were actually able to maintain mortgage repayments and stay in their home. We do know that owning your own home going into retirement is one of the best ways Australians can be supported to have a safe and secure retirement. Now, what the Labor Party is now proposing as well is refusing to allow people access to superannuation, which again is their money, for things like buying a home once for women who've had to flee domestic violence, who've had a later in life separation, to provide security to them and their children. There are circumstances that we need to look at, and what the Labor Party is now saying is you're not allowed to touch your money in your superannuation account for your own home ownership, but we're going to be able to access it to pay for other people's homes.
It's not everyone, though.
It's compulsory. It's your money. But the thing is, they're saying $3 million now. This is all about creep. Look at what Labor does, not what they say. They started before the election saying there'd be no major changes. Now they're saying if you've got a balance over $3 million. Well, if you look at the rate of return now, even if you had $5 million in super, you're looking at around $100,000 a year annuity. Now, for some people, that's a lot of money. For others that have other expenses, that's not a huge amount of money, but we're talking about balances over $3 million.
Okay, but what about, just to bring you up there, sorry, Hollie, so just that there's 36,000 Australians or thereabouts that have more than $3 million in super. So it only affects a small section of the Australian public who may be benefiting from generous tax breaks. So is it fair that they are able to benefit from those generous tax breaks, which is beyond what the original modus operandi of super was designed to be?
When superannuation was developed, it was so that people could save for their own retirement. Everything that's been put in place around superannuation has allowed for long-term planning. And that's exactly what superannuation is. You don't put, you start putting superannuation away in your 20s, you're not accessing it for nearly 50 years. It's long-term planning, and people have made decisions because of the way superannuation has been set up to invest more money into their superannuation fund over time, which is long-term planning on these people's behalf. You cannot change the goalposts on people that are going to have a significant impact on their retirement.
Okay.
And this is absolutely what Labor's doing and goes right in the face of what they said before the election.